everyone, welcome to GoneDrivin. For this week's video, I have my hands on the 2023 Mazda CX-50 that Mazda claims is their all-new compact SUV and a very capable off-roader. Is it really worth it? Subscribe, like the video, and find out. So Mazda's come together with Toyota actually to build a new plant in Alabama, USA to build this North American exclusive CX-50. And now the reason or the logic behind this is that in North America, the compact SUV market is one of the fastest growing segments right now. So what does Mazda do? They build a compact SUV to compete with all the other SUVs in the market right now. The square silhouette, the tough looking design of the CX-50 makes the car stand out. And today, we're going to be looking at the exterior, the interior, and then going for a quick drive. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and like the video. The CX-50 will be coming in two trims. You can get a GSL trim that starts at about 37,000 Canadian dollars, or you can get the GT trim, which is what I have, which starts at about 45,000. And I think mine that I have for the week is just around $47,000. The front of the CX-50 actually reminds me of the Mazda CX-5, and a lot of people would agree with me on that, but the thing is, this CX-50 is actually based on the CX-30. So this is basically a CX-30 platform extended to give it a more aggressive look. But from the front, I love how this looks, especially the lights that we have here. Mazda says that they put the lights a little bit more inward, so the flares of the car are accentuated a little bit more, which is very nice. And then we've got this nice black grille here. Again, they said that there's a grille supposed to speak to the youth people. So, again, very interesting comparison, Mazda. But again, I like the grille. We've got a front camera here as part of the 360 camera. We've also got vents on the front bumper here, and they're actually useful and practical. So they're not just fake bumpers. I know there's some airflow that can go through these front vents, but overall, I just love how aggressive and just how really mean this CX-50 looks. And I also love where Mazda has placed the turning signals on the CX-50. Instead of having them up on the top with the headlamps, they actually have them on the bottom here, which looks very nice. So I'll go ahead and unlock the car right now, and you guys will see it for yourself. They're right here on the bottom. At night, this looks very, very nice. I'll put a clip of how they look at night. And we've also got the headlights here, the LEDs, as well as the xenon, which looks really nice. So very capable and very useful if you do take this car off-roading or camping. And underneath the CX-50, we don't have a skid plate actually, but Mazda did make sure that there's a minimum ground clearance of 214 millimeters to achieve maximum capability off-roading. Under the hood of the CX-50, we've got at least my tester has the 2.5 liter inline 4 turbocharged engine that produces 256 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque. But you can get a lower engine in this car, and that is the 2.5 liter inline 4 cylinder deactivation engine that produces 187 horsepower and 186 pound-feet of torque. And also, fun fact about the CX-50 is that this car is a North American market exclusive, so it will only be available in an all-wheel drive variant, not in a front-wheel drive. From the side, we've got this square boxy design for the CX-50 that looks really nice, especially paired with this uneven cladding surfaces that goes all across the car. It's supposed to be utilitarian and give that feeling. And also we've got these flares or these little arches on the back of the CX-50 that are also extended out, which look very, very nice. And I think overall this is a really, really nice color as well. This is a zircon sand metallic paint that Mazda calls. It is new for the CX-50 and the Mazda brand in general. They also unveiled a blue color, which is nice, but I think this color just looks fantastic. And I love how Mazda engineers have really taken the time to consider the fact that they want the owners to be able to see over the SUV, which is something that you don't see in other SUVs. So a nice little cool design language by Mazda. And also now moving to the wheels here, we've got 17-inch wheels or 20-inch wheels available as optional in the CX-50. My tester for the week does have the 20-inch wheels. I think they look great, especially with this color. If you were to get a CX-50, I definitely recommend getting the 20-inch wheels. But I mean, 17-inch wheels, I'm sure they look just as fine. Another feature that I'm really, really glad that Mazda brought on is the proximity lock feature. So this was in the Mazda 3 Sport Turbo that I had a little while ago, and it's basically where you have the keys in your pocket and you can walk away. I think this is very useful in a car like this, which is an SUV, where your hands are sometimes full and you can't really lock the car. So I'll show you how it works. So you just, let's say you open the car, you get whatever you need to, and then you close the door, and you can't lock the door for whatever reason, it locks itself. The rear end of the CX-50 looks very, very nice. I think it's still, in line with the theme of the utilitarian look that Mazda is going for. We've got these flares here that are extended out, very much so compared to the CX-30 or the CX-5. And speaking of the CX-5, we've got these taillights here that look very much similar to the CX-5, as well as this little lining here that goes across the trunk. We've also got vents that are exactly same from the front end of the CX-50, although these ones actually have no use behind them. A little bit unfortunate, I don't really see the point of having them there, but at the end of the day, This is very much important to the design language of the car, so I don't mind it. But where the party begins is actually in the trunk of the car. So in order to open the CX-50 trunk, there's two ways you can do it. So either you slide your hand underneath here, or you can use the key fob that you have. There's actually no kick to access the trunk. Honestly, I don't really care enough about it. I think that's a little bit gimmicky. And if there is a way to do it, let me know in the comments below. But let's go ahead and open up the trunk now. With the trunk of the CX-50, Mazda wanted it to look a lot more deeper than actually wide, and that's what a lot of compact SUVs are. They've got a wide trunk, but with the CX-50, it's actually a deeper wagon-like trunk. And the reason for doing this is because it makes loading and unloading things very, very easy. So we've got a set of golf clubs to our right here. Let me show you how that works. So we just grab it here and just unload it like so. And we can just close it up like so. Before we get into the interior of the Mazda CX-50, I do want to make note of one thing, and that is the ease of entry and exit of this car. I really think that Mazda's engineers put in an extra amount of time and extra amount of work to make that happen, and I noticed that especially, not just me though, even other people that I've had, my friends, my family, everyone makes point of that, and it's very, very cool. And just getting into the car and getting out of the car is just so easy. I don't know what it is about this door frame or whatever it might be, but it's so much easier than some of the other SUVs I've gotten into. Alright, so currently in the inside of the Mazda CX-50, and I have to say the biggest thing that comes out of this car is the color of these seats. I love how they look. It's like this copper sand finish. It looks really well with the zircon sand metallic color on the exterior of the car. But overall, this is pretty much identical to a lot of the other interiors you see in the Mazda fleet and the Mazda cars. We'll go ahead and start it up here just so you get an idea, or we can see how everything looks once it's turned on. You get this nice little logo that says CX-50, you get a couple of beeps, and you have your whole gauge cluster lit up as well as your entertainment screen. So some of the biggest features, the biggest changes in the CX-50 than the other cars is the fact that this car comes with My Drive, which has a normal mode, sport mode, and an off-road mode. And the sport mode could be swapped out for a towing mode. And also, speaking of towing, this car can tow up to 3,500 pounds, which is good enough for a trailer or a small boat. So if you have that, this car is just perfect for you. And also, we've got a 10.25-inch infotainment screen in the new CX-50, which is also touchscreen. Yes, first time ever, touchscreen, only when you're not driving though. If you're driving, it's still, you have to use this little scroller here. And also, speaking of the entertainment cluster, I do want to provide some clarification for my previous video. Now, I know I did talk about the fact that in my previous Mazda video, I wasn't happy with the infotainment screen and how you control it, but Mazda actually reached out to me and kind of explained to me why things are the way they are. We've got the screen here, which is actually further than the driver's reach, and Mazda did that for a specific reason. They don't want the driver to take their eyes off the road to mess about the screen, so they didn't want customers to be doing that. And the same thing applies for the scroller here. So they want customers to kind of rely on muscle memory to navigate through the screen, which is kind of interesting and kind of unique if you think about it. A lot of manufacturers don't really say things like that, or don't really seem to be caring as much about the customers, but Mazda, they show that they really care about the driver's safety, and this is one of the ways that they do it, and I have no complaints about it. And also, we do have something called intelligent stop in the CX-50, which is basically a auto start stop feature that a lot of other cars have. But in the Mazda CX-50, it's actually very, very passive, and it's not in your face. So what I mean by that is that, it'll only work in specific occasions or specific natures. Let's say if you're in a lot of stop and go, action, it may not engage the feature right away, which is kind of unique, which is kind of cool because, you don't want it to be always on and off. I found that sometimes a little annoying in some cars. And also, the way it turns on and off in this car is so smooth. It's probably smoother than some of the other cars like the BMWs or the Mercedes. And then we've also got your adaptive cruise control and your lane keep assist as part of your safety features, as well as 360 camera, which is really, really great. You can see all the angles around the car, which is fantastic when you're parking the car. You've also got ventilated seats and a heated steering wheel, so that is very nice. And also, you've got this little console area here, which opens up in kind of like a split manner, which is kind of cool. So you can only have one open if you want, or you can have both open. I do have two complaints that I would say with the Mazda interior here, and I would say that is the cup holders. So again, the cup holders, when you fit in a bottle like this, they do seem to sway a little bit, especially if you don't have something on the other side. So that is a bit problematic. And also, because Mazda uses this car as a selling point for families and road trips and having those day trips, I think having cooled and heated cup holders might be a good idea, and as well as having a heated and cooled, or maybe just cooled, console area here might be a good little selling point, especially for those that want to take this car out for a longer road trip. Now, with the front interior out of the way, let's go ahead and check out the back seats. All right, in the back seat of the CX-50, I gotta say there's lots of legroom here for myself. I'm sitting at 5'8", and there's enough space for me, even in the headroom area, which is really nice. We've got pouches here on the right for anything to store. We've also got heated seats for the back for your passengers on the left and right here, as well as 2 USB ports and a nice little armrest on the left, and an armrest that you can take out just over here. Very comfortable and very nice. Alright, so currently behind the wheel of the CX-50, and after driving this for just about a week now, I gotta say my initial impressions, or some of my impressions on this car, is that it's got a very comfortable drive, and with the bigger engine, I think this car gets going pretty quickly. And speaking of the powerhouse in this car, I already mentioned earlier, this does have a 2.5 liter inline-4 engine, and you know, when you floor it off the mark or off the line, it's quick, but it's nothing impressive by any means. And there are 2 engine options available with the CX-50, and I gotta say, if you want more fuel economy and fuel efficiency, you have to go with the smaller engine, the cylinder deactivation one, because at the end of the day, this one it's a bigger engine, so obviously it's gonna consume a little bit more gas. I've had this for about a week, and I'm averaging about 11.5 to 11.8 liters per 100 kilometers, so it's definitely on the higher end. And if that's something that stresses you out, I would recommend getting the smaller engine. Also, I have heard from rumors and other people that Mazda might be making a hybrid version of this, so you know, if you want to wait around a little bit, you might benefit from a hybrid version of this. In terms of the overall design layout of the CX-50, I gotta say it's pretty much identical to all the other cars in their lineups, in their fleet. This is very much similar to the Mazda 3 Sport Turbo that I had a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't watched the video yet, be sure to go do that. But I mean, the steering wheel, the gauge cluster is pretty much the exact same. The screen here in the middle, it is a little bit bigger. The CarPlay on this is also touchscreen when you're not driving, which is, you know, a great decision made by Mazda. And I know I had mentioned this earlier about, you know, Mazda explaining the reasons for why the screen is a little bit further and why we have these little, you know, buttons for controlling the infotainment screen. But you know, overall, I think this interior cabin is very comfortable. The climate control is very much straight to the point, nothing too complex going on, and I think overall this is a very, very refined interior. And in terms of the suspension and the handling of the CX-50, again, by no means is this a performance car. At the end of the day, it's supposed to be an SUV that's supposed to provide a comfortable ride, and I think it delivers on that. You know, when you want to toss this car around into some corners, anything like that, you really can't expect a whole lot out of it. I mean, sure, it's quick in a straight line, but I mean, you know, when you take corners, the steering wheel itself is very responsive, but there's still a little bit of body roll, because at the end of the day, this is still, you know, an SUV, and you can't really toss it and slide it by any means. And you know, that's something that maybe Mazda could consider potentially, is making a performance SUV, or you know, some sort of little fun SUV. I think that's something that they could potentially explore. I think that might be a great idea for some people. We're gonna go down to 25 kilometers an hour, and then we're just gonna do a launch, a rolling launch really. So we're at 25. I'm gonna floor it here. And you know, there is some lag in the car as expected, but I mean, it gets going decently, moderately, if you want to call it that. There is a turbocharger in this engine, and you know, that's pretty much similar to the Mazda 3 Sport Turbo that we saw earlier on. But you know, there's not really a huge power difference between probably this one and the lower engine trim of this car. So you know, if you really don't care about the power, I definitely recommend just going for the lesser engine trim in this, because you're probably better off with the fuel efficiency and fuel savings. And in terms of the overall suspension and how the car feels while driving, it's very comfortable. And I gotta say, I think it's probably because of how Mazda tuned the suspension in this car, because you know, it doesn't have any sort of dampening system or any air suspension, but it's still very, very well tuned. And you know, when you hit potholes like I'm hitting right now, it's relatively comfortable. I'm sure you still feel them because it doesn't have that dampening system, but it's still pretty comfortable, and I love that about this car. It's probably one of the biggest or best features in this car is the comfortability and the suspension in this car. And you know, having that comfortable suspension in a compact SUV, I think it is very important for, you know, any future compact SUV owners, because at the end of the day, they might take this car, you know, for a long road trip or a day trip, and you know, they want that comfort. And if you have that in a compact SUV like this, then I think this could be a very big selling point for the CX-50. And I mean, Mazda does take a lot of pride in the CX-50 on the fact that this can be off-roaded, and you know, this can be taken on trails and all those adventures, those camping adventures, if you want to call it that. And you know, I personally haven't had the chance to do it yet in this car. You know, we're in Ontario, there's not a lot of places you can just take the car off-roading unless you go, you know, very, very far up north. But you know, still, I took this on a small little farm, if you want to call it that, and you know, we put this car from normal to off-road mode, and the off-road mode actually made a pretty significant difference. So, you know, if you really do take this car, you know, out in the forest, out on trails, put this car in off-road mode, and you know what, you might actually, you know, have yourself a great time. This car will be very capable, and I'm curious to see how it does, you know, in a Canadian winter, because, you know, we get lots of snow. So you know, it's going to be interesting to see how it performs and how it does. So maybe, you know, Mazda Canada can give this car back to me in winter time, and we'll test it out to see how it is. In terms of who this car competes with, I mean, roughly I would say probably this is trying to compete with the Subarus, especially the Forester or the Outback maybe, because, you know, that color, first of all, you know, I think it came right out of the playbooks of Subaru. I'm not complaining at all. I love the color on this car specifically, but, you know, I think it's definitely trying to compete with that Subaru lifestyle and, you know, that adventurous lifestyle. I think, you know, Mazda is definitely taking an ambitious approach to things, but I think there is a very, very solid amount of hope. And with that, my review on the 2023 Mazda CX-50 comes to an end. If you enjoyed watching this video, be sure to hit the like button, and of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to watch me do more car reviews. And if there's something specific you like about the CX-50, let me know in the comments below.